distinction on between culpable homicide and murder. So the cause of confusion. So the thin line is the intention behind the act. All murders are culpable homicide, but the vice versa is not true. Ever since the IPC was enacted, this distinction as to which case will fall under which category is a perennial question with which courts are often confronted. On a plain reading of the relevant provisions of the code, it appears that the given cases can be conveniently classified into two categories, but when it comes to actual application, the courts are often confronted with this dilemma. So this confusion often emerges when it is difficult to interpret from the evidence whether the intention was to cause merely bodily injury, which would not make out an offense of murder, or there was a clear intention to kill the victim, making out a clear case of an offense of murder. So the most confusing aspect is the intention. As in both the provisions, the intention is to cause death. Hence, you have to consider the degree of intention of the offenders. So if the person is killed in a cold blood or with planning, then it is a murder, because the intention to kill is in high degree and not out of sudden rage or provocation. On the other hand, if the victim is killed without pre-planning, in sudden fight or in sudden anger because of somebody's provocation or instigation, then such a death is called culpable homicide. Hence, whether the act done is culpable homicide or murder is a question of fact. So what is the distinguishing factor between the two? The distinction between the two was aptly set forth by in Sarkaria J in State of Andhra Pradesh versus R. Punnaya. So in the scheme of the penal code, culpable homicide is a genus and murder is its species. All murder is culpable homicide, but not vice versa. Speaking generally, culpable homicide sans special characteristics of murder is culpable homicide, but not amounting to murder. So for the purpose of fixing punishment proportionate to the gravity of this generic offense, the IPC practically recognizes 3 degrees of culpable homicide. The first is what may be called culpable homicide of first degree. This is the gravest form of culpable homicide, which is defined in the section 300 as murder. The second may be termed as the culpable homicide of the second degree. So in this, it is punishable under the first part of the section of 304. Then there is culpable homicide of the third degree. This is the lowest type of culpable homicide, and the punishment provided for it is also the lowest among the punishment provided for the 3 grades. So it is punishable under part 2 of section 304. So what are the exceptions to section 300 of the IPC where culpable homicide is not considered as murder? So clause 1 to 4 of section 300 of the IPC provide the essential ingredients wherein culpable homicides amount to murder. So section 300, after laying down the cases in which culpable homicide becomes murder, it states that certain exceptional situations under which, so if murder is committed, it is reduced to culpable homicide, not amounting to murder, punishable under section 304 of IPC and not under section 302 of the IPC. The exceptions are: first, grave and sudden provocations; second is private defense; third is exercise of legal power; fourth is without premeditation in sudden fight; fifth is consent in case of passive euthanasia. And the sudden and grave provocation, what does it mean? So if the offender is deprived of the power of self-control due to sudden and grave provocation and his act causes the death of the person who provoked or death of any other person by accident or mistake, this exception is subject to a certain provision that the provocation is not sought or is voluntarily provoked by the offender to be used as an excuse for killing or causing any harm to the person. Second is that the provocation is not given by anything that is done in obedience to the law or by a public servant while exercising the powers lawfully of a public servant. The next one is that the provocation is not done while doing any lawful exercise of the right of private defense. For example, A is given a grave and sudden provocation by C. A fires at C. As a result of this provocation, A didn't intend or have any knowledge that his act is likely to kill C, who is out of A's sight. A kills C. A is not liable to murder but is liable to culpable homicide. So now I will be talking about the cases and judgments on KM Nanavati versus State of Maharashtra in 1961. So what happened in this case is the Supreme Court has exclusively explained the laws relating to provocation in India. So it was observed by the court that the test of sudden and grave provocation is whether a reasonable man who belongs to the same society as the accused is placed in the situation in which the accused was placed would have been so provoked as to lose his self-control. Then under certain circumstances, words and gestures may also lead to sudden and grave provocation to an accused so as to bring his act under an exception. The next one is the mental background of the victim can be taken into consideration, taking account of his previous acts to ascertain whether the subsequent act leads to a sudden and grave provocation for committing the offense. The next one is the fatal blow clearly should trace the influence of passion that arises from the sudden and grave provocation. It should not be after the provocation has cooled down due to lapse of time, otherwise it will give room and scope to the accused for altering the evidence. So in Muthu versus State of Tamil Nadu in 2007, what happened is that in this case, it was held that by the Supreme Court that the constant harassment might deprive the power of self-control, which means amounting to a sudden and grave provocation. So when the person exceeds his right to private defense, what happens? An act of private defense can be said exercised when the act is committed in order to defend oneself from further harm. So if the accused intentionally exceeds his right to private defense, then he is liable to murder. So if it is an unintentional, then the accused will be liable to culpable homicide, not amounting to murder. So an illustration of this could be that X attempts to flog Y, not in a manner to cause grievous hurt to Y. So A pistol is drawn out by Y and X persists the assault. Y believes that he had no way to prevent himself from being flogged by X. So Y fires at X and X is liable to culpable homicide, not amounting to murder. So in the case law of Nathan versus State of Madras, so in this case, what happened is that the landlord was trying to forcefully evict the accused and the accused killed the landlord while exercising his right to private defense. So in this, there was no fear of death to the accused as the deceased was not holding any deadly weapon that could not have caused grievous hurt or death of the accused. So the deceased had no intention to kill the accused. Thus, the accused exceeded his right to private defense and thus the accused was liable to culpable homicide not amounting to murder. So culpable homicide in case of public servant, so here the act is done by a public servant. So who is acting to promote public justice? So if the public servant commits an act which is necessary to discharge his duty as done in good faith and if he believes that it is supposed to be lawful. So an illustration could be if the police officer goes to arrest a person. So the person tries to run away and during that incident, if the police officer shoots the person, the police officer will not be guilty of murder. So in the case law of Dakhi Singh versus State in 1955, so in this case the appellant was the constable of Railway Protection Force. So while he was on duty, he killed a fireman unintentionally while he was firing a bullet shot to catch the thief. So the constable was entitled to the benefit under this section. So the next would be sudden fight rage. So the sudden fight is when the fight is unexpected or premeditated. So both the parties don't have any intention to kill or cause the death of another. So the fact that which party had assaulted or offered a provocation first is not important. So in the case of Radhe Shyam and another versus State of Uttar Pradesh in 2018. So in this case, the appellant was extremely angry when he got to know that his calf had come to the deceased's place and the appellant started abusing and the deceased. So when the latter tried to stop him, the appellant fired at the deceased and the deceased was unarmed at that time. So thus the appellant had an intention to kill the deceased and hence he was held liable to murder. So what is the punishment for murder? So in section 302 of IPC, whoever commits murder shall be punishable with death or imprisonment for life and shall be also liable to fine. So what is the punishment for culpable homicide? So section 304 of the IPC states that culpable homicide is not murder if it falls under any one of the 5 exceptions given under section 300. So for culpable homicide not amounting to murder, so section 304 of the IPC describes the punishment to as it will be imprisonment for life or imprisonment for either description of a term extending up to 10 years and or the fine. So what is the meaning of expression on beyond reasonable doubt? So for a doubt to stand in the way of the conviction of guilt, it must be a real doubt and a reasonable doubt. So if the data leaves the mind of the trial judge in doubt, the decision must be against the party having the burden of persuasion. So if the mind of the adjudication tribunal is evenly balanced as to whether or not the accused is guilty, it is the duty of the acquit the accused. So what is examining the rarest of the rarest case in imposing death penalty? So in the rarest of the rarest case is the principle enshrined in Bachchan Singh versus State of Punjab in 1980. So what happened is that which limits the vast discretion of the court is in imposing death penalty. So death as a highest punishment was removed from being a general rule to being awarded only in exceptional circumstances, and that too after recording the special reason for imposing the highest punishment, which cannot be rewarded under any circumstances. So after its execution. So the phrase rarest of the rarest case still remains to be defined, while the concern for human life, the norms of a civilized society, and the need to reform the criminal has engaged the attention of the courts. So the sentence of death has to be based on the action of the criminal rather than the crime committed. The doctrine of proportionality of sentence vis-a-vis the crime, the victim and the offender has been the greatest concern of the courts. So in conclusion, I would like to say, as discussed in the videos, I would say there's a thin line between murder and culpable homicide, and the courts have time to time again and again taken efforts to differentiate between these two offences, and the end result of the two being same. So the intention behind the offence being the important factor of consideration, the entire case of the prosecution can be based on a single point. For example, intention. And in the same way, the entire case of the prosecution can be destroyed by the defense by proving that no intention. Thank you so much.